So what is the subject? Well, the subject is reclaiming dominion. And what I'm here to do is to bust the fictions. And the three big fictions have to do with law, religion and science. They're all controlled by certain entities on this planet, very powerful entities. And the science that you get from the universities, consensus science, is mostly all erroneous when it deals with the universe. So I'm going to bust a few fictions there because we really need to know how the solar system works to be able to reclaim dominion and be free. Law, right? We think we go to the magistrates to get justice. Well, no, you're getting a service. It's a service. It's an adjudication service. You could liken it to your neighbours having a fight. So the husband's fighting with his wife, and you turn up at the door and you knock and you say, look, I've come in here to help you with your argument. I heard you screaming. And I can adjudicate for you. And the guy turns around and looks at you and says, nah, piss off. I'll settle this in my house. I mean, he doesn't need your service, right? That's what the justice system is doing. They're providing a service. And we need to stand up in dominion and tell them that we don't need those services. Okay? And we can do the Magna Carta thing, which is ask for a jury, because that's your right. That's our right. Religion. That's the big one. That's the big one. Once upon a time on this planet, and this can be proved, this is known by people who read other literature other than church literature, there was peace and there was one religion on this earth. And it was based on the cycles and the phenomena of nature. Simple. Simple as that. The characters were all the same. They honoured the moving orbs in the sky, which were called the wanderers. The Greeks called them the wanderers. The Jews called them Elohim. The Elohim. Let us make man in our image. They have been called by various names. The Cosmocrators, the Demiurge. Now, they are the characters that always turn up in our Holy Scriptures. And yet Catholicism and Christianity came along at a certain period of time, very conveniently in the Piscean Age, because that is the Iron Age, where humanity has lost their consciousness. See, this is why we need to reclaim our dominion, because there's a download of consciousness coming and an awakening that's occurring, that if we miss out on it and don't reclaim our dominion, the prodigal son don't turn back to his daddy in the heavens. And the prodigal son is us. We're the ones that have come into this solar system, incarnated here. Here we are. We're all here together on this third rock from the sun, flying around through heavens. How does that happen? How do our souls transmigrate? Well, this is the story that is in these mythologies. If we understand this great and illustrious book, the Holy Bible, what the Jews and the Christians call the Holy Bible, and believe you me, we need to reclaim this book because it's brilliant. It is the best Shakespearean stuff on the planet. And I've proven it with my astrotheology videos. I've shown who the characters are. Abraham, Jesus, Moses, David. They're the planets in the solar system. They are the heroes. And they wander around the seven orbs, the two luminaries, the sun and the moon, and then the five visible planets, visible to the human eye. Of course, Uranus and Neptune and Pluto are not. So Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus and Mercury, we see them. And we see Mercury's going around quickly, 88 days. We notice Venus does 225 days. Mars, 687 days. Then we see Jupiter, 12 years. Saturn, 29 and a half years. And we see this. And they're the wanderers. And they go through the signs of the zodiac, Virgo. Saturn is in Virgo right now, actually. If you look out at 9 o'clock to the west, you will see the Virgin going down. Interesting, because we're in the sign of the Virgin. It's September the 4th, and we are right in the heart of the Virgin. So the Virgin is still there. Isn't the sun supposed to be in the Virgin? I'm going to explain this. why it's not in the Virgin. It's actually in Leo, the next sign down, because of processional slippage, which I shall explain. But these are the things we don't get. We don't get in our institutions, certainly not in church. They won't tell you what this book's all about. But this book has been busted. This is a book from the 1830s, the Reverend Robert Taylor. In here you will find the best astrotheology. He went to jail twice in England for publishing this book, and he exposed. He's done an enormous amount of research, absolutely exposed the church buffoons that are teaching the literal Roman cult version, which is based on a historical figure, which is the whole underpinning structure of all the fictions. And this is what I'm here to expose. That the whole lot of it, the law, everything that is backward in this world, in the Western world, goes right back to a historical Christ. And that is where we've gone astray. Because I'm going to show that the Christ that came in the flesh is the consciousness that mankind possesses. So there's no denying that Christ came in the flesh. He did. There's the flesh, and your consciousness that you're enjoying, in which you're able to communicate with one another, is the Christ consciousness. It came. And the second coming is a higher dose of this, as we go from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. We go from mutable water to fixed air. Air, last time I checked, is spirit, the Holy Spirit. So, earthly bodies, hexahedron, that's the hex, the square. That's a symbol for the molecule. See, these are the Platonic solids, the 5 Platonic or Pythagorean solids, and these are the 5 elements, or the 4 Platonic elements, earth, water, air and fire, which come from the cause, the ether. Now this is the science that underpins the whole story of how our souls came to this solar system. This is the science, because we are made of these things. You see, we are solid, liquid, gas and light. Photon, particle, atom, molecule. That's what we're made of. So the soul, which comes from here, from unconditioned consciousness, the firstborn of the ether is the fires in the sky, electricity. Walter Russell. Are we familiar with Walter Russell? Great genius. Please, I'm going to be using this book a bit today because we're going to bust the science, right? This guy busted the science. He debunked Newton and his gravity and whatever theories. He debunked them. Totally out and out debunked it. But they're still teaching it in the universities. And people are graduating on all this false science. He says, electricity is the only force which God makes use of to create this universe. Ooh. Well, that's what scientists like Wallace Thornhill are teaching at Thunderbolt's project. And you can check this out on the internet. Wallace Thornhill is an Australian scientist and he's teaching about the electric universe, plasma cosmology. But consensus scientists just doesn't get with the times. And they're controlled again by Rome. Okay, so Rome is controlling all of this. Now, I'm probably going to be starting with the law. All right, we're going to bust the law. And no need to write this down. As I said, I'll have DVDs so you can get this information. Okay, so but that's my website. And this is Franco Collins, and this is another good website. But apart from these websites, I'm going to be recommending, if you want to research the law stuff, Dean Clifford. Okay? Punch in YouTube the name Dean Clifford. And he's in Canada, and he is the best guy you want to be studying and listening to right now. Right now, if you want to reclaim dominion and you want to bust the fictions in law. Okay? Now, the Catholic Church, the Roman cult, controls everything that happens in your courtrooms, okay? Everything, the whole lot. The magistrates wear black because they are priests, they are ecclesiasticals, they are ordinaries. An ordinary is an officer of the church who, by reason of office, has ordinary power to execute the church's laws. So these people are working for the Inquisition. And I'm going to show how they set this system up, okay, via a system of trusts. Now, the trusts are, the first trust was in 1302, and Boniface was he the 8th now? Anyway, that papal bull is Unum Sanctum, okay? He set up this trust, this papal bull, and then there were 3 subsequent trusts that derived their power from this one. Unum Sanctum tells you that everything on this planet belongs to the Catholic Church, okay? You too. That's the presumption, because that's their claim of right. You see, we don't have papal bulls, do we? Anyone, hand up if you've got a papal bull where you've cursed the whole world and claimed to possess the... Does anyone do that sort of shit? No. They do. And they've done it. And these are the trusts. 1455... Romanus Pontifex, 1455. 1481, Attorney Regis. Notice the date? 11 years before Christopher Columbus took off with 3 boats full of conquerors, conquistadores. They went to conquer a land which did not belong to them, but they were blessed by Rome. And when he came back in the year 1493, he signed the Treaty of Tesadillos, which gave them the whole of the Americas to the Columbus family. That's not the true name, by the way. Christopher, last time I checked, means bearer of Christ, and Columbus is the holy dove. So he went with the blessing of the Catholic Church. So that family, the Columbus family, 12 years after this date, and I'll show you why this is very important, because this is the property that they've stolen off us. And so they split it up between the Columbus families, the elite families, and the Vatican Church families, because the elites own the biggest corporation on the planet, which is the Vatican. Right? They deal in... Well, it's a business. And the most profitable business that they deal in is war, people trafficking, enslaving countries, conquering countries, making fictional money, Federal Reserve money. They're in bed with the banks. They're in bed with the Rothschilds. In fact, one of the 6 founding dynasty sons of Rothschild, Amschel Rothschild, went down to Naples and begun a long history of looking after Vatican money since 1823. And that was Carlo, down in Naples. And you see the famous picture where Rothschild is kissing the Pope, and he's like, whoa, we're going to do business, man. This is history. We are going to do business. And in fact, in France, they called the 2 Rothschild brothers, Nathan and James, Nathan in England and James in France, they called them the Demon Brothers, and they were about to lynch them. But they were spared, and they have been spared many times over, this family, and they're still out there murdering and killing and plundering and medicating us and poisoning us and indoctrinating us and pumping millions of dollars into their corporate churches, mostly Christian. Now, I'm not going to attack Christianity. There's some good Christian churches out there that are not corporatized. They're not corporations. Good in terms of, well, you know, they're not corporations doing business. Because, corporation is business. The Watchtower and Bible Tract Society incorporated. And they've got a board and members and shareholders. Every corporation has shareholders. You're the single sole shareholder of your corporation, your registered birth name. You're the shareholder of that, the beneficiary and the executor, the general executor. And this is what I'm going to show you, that we need to reclaim that position. So when you go into court, you just rock up and you say, hey, Mr. Judge Boy, I happen to be the general executor of this account. And by whose authority do you use that name as personal identification? So I'm going to appoint you trustee and you just dissolve this case. Bye-bye. Business is done, and get out there. Get out of there. And this is what we have to do. We just have to do it to restore justice and law to the world. And it's a coming. 1537, convocation. Okay, now I've gone into this, I've got a video on YouTube about the law. I've gone into this in more detail. I'm not going to go too much into that. These are the trusts, okay? This takes away your real property. This takes away your personal property. This takes away your soul. You've all been baptised into the Catholic Church. You have, all of you. You got a birth certificate? That's your baptism. That is your baptism. You see, it's a ritual. They perform this ritual in our hospitals, because hospitals are military facilities. Since 1931, or at least in the 1870s, with Abraham Lincoln's efforts and the banksters. But we are born in wards. You are wards of the state. In their eyes, this is their presumptions. This is their presumptions, and unless you rebut those presumptions, they stand. That's why they can get little young 18-year-old boys that come to court and they're trembling and nervous because they didn't have a license, or they were speeding or something like that. And they get taken into court and people are being jailed for not paying CityLink. This is how they can do this. They can get away with it. Because people aren't saying, hey, hang on a minute here now. Hang on a minute. I'm the sole beneficiary and shareholder of my corporation. And I'm going to tell you, Mr. Public Servant, what's for. You're not going to tell me. And I do not consent to your jurisdiction, or I do not consent to go into one of your warehouses, because we're just property, chattel. So they can warehouses in prisons. They can do that if you don't know who you are. You see, this is what the whole thing of law, religion and science is. We have to bust the three big ones. And the law must be dealt with. We've got to deal with this aspect of their presumptions. Get into Dean Clifford, where he teaches all this. I probably only know 1/100th of what he knows. You've got to go to him. Believe me, he's got the latest information, and he's got interviews out there that you can listen to, and they're great. And believe you me, you listen to 3 or 4 hours of Dean Clifford, you're ready to rock and roll with this Dominion stuff. And you really will understand who you are. Right? We don't need, as sovereigns, to consent to their services. A bit like the mafia, when the mafia comes a-calling, you can rest assured they've got a service for you. Yeah. And you might want to, I don't know how you deal with that, because my family come from southern Italy, Calabria, where the mafia is called 'ndrangheta, and they've killed people who have resisted them. And believe you me, that mafia there goes right back to the Vatican. You can see it in the movie The Godfather. That's not fiction, that's true, what they're telling you there. It all goes back to the Vatican. The Vatican controls the lot of it. The cardinals are the greatest, most evil sorcerers in the universe. And they are about to be dealt some justice. And we're going to see it with our own eyes. And possibly those FEMA concentration camps that they've built will house a bunch of these types, a bunch of these elite types. Unfortunately, it's not something that you want to dwell on, because it's better to dwell on positive things, but the camps are there and the elites are still around, and we know that they have been certainly poisoning us in many ways, especially in the mind, with lies. And that's what we're here to address.
So how do you get past the presumption of separation of church and state? Like the big public story is that church and state are no longer actually working together, and there's big separation. Yet obviously by all this information, it is still run by the church, and all states are run by church. So how do we get past that lie and throw that back into their face?
Well, we have to identify what the Vatican... We really have to reveal what the Vatican is. It's a corporation.
Okay.
It's corporatism. So it doesn't matter what arm of the Vatican, whether it's the banksters, because they're in bed with each other, the Jesuits, the Club of Rome, the Knights of Malta, and all these buffoons.
But they have a zombie army that just does what they want them to do. I mean,
yeah, because there's money.
Think for themselves.
There's money. People, look, unevolved people will do anything for a paycheck. They'll do anything. You want me to kill my mother? Sure, man. $10? Oh, lovely. Bernanke types, you know? George Bush types. We're going to bring democracy to Iraq. Yeah, because, first of all, George Bush and his family, the murderers of JFK and John Lennon, they're going to bring their democracy, their mob rule, to Iraq. Of course they are, because Halliburton, Blackwater and all their corporations are in there doing business with the Iraqis.
But they also had a system of law that was different, Catholic as well, didn't they? The Iraqis, Iranians, Chinese.
Yes.
They're all separate models.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. That's why the war in Vietnam happened, and Korea and everything like that, because it's the Vatican re-establishing and asserting its power in the Far East, in the Americas, wherever it goes, with the UN and with the elite corporations, the trilateralists, the Bilderbergers, the Council on Foreign Relations. It's all rigged. The market, it's all rigged. Everything's rigged, and we need to bust it open by standing up and reclaiming our dominion. That's what the prodigal son's about. Are you all familiar with the prodigal son? It's a beautiful parable. It's in the Bible, right? I've got the New Jerusalem version here. And it's in Luke. And the reason why I love it is because when you understand it correctly, you know who it's relating to. It's relating to us. We're the prodigal son. You see, we go away from our causal, unconditioned consciousness. That's how good we are. I'm preaching to the converted here. I know you people have got an idea of this at different levels, that how divine you really are. I don't have to convert you. I don't have to scream at you. Please, see it. You see it. You know it. And we're starting, we are more understanding the fact that we are more spiritual than we are physical. And what is physical? It's motion. Everything you see that appears to be hard and solid is just motion. There's no substances. We'll get back to the prodigal son. I won't read it, in fact, but I'm just going to explain what the story, how the story goes. But before I do, let's just see what Walter Russell has to say about matter and substances. Okay, the physical world. The scientist has not only divided matter into 92 different kinds of substances, but he has divided these 92 substances into atomic systems made up of many more minute particles of somewhere around 20 primal substances. These he calls electrons, protons, neutrons, antineutrons, antiprotons, photons, gravitons, mesons, kappa mesons, positive mu mesons, negative mu mesons, positive pi mesons, negative pi mesons, neutral pi mesons, tau mesons, positive V particles, negative V particles, neutral V particles, and so on. Without an end as yet in sight of the many non-existent substances. They don't exist. They so convincingly act their parts in producing the mirages of substance in this universe that the greatest scientists of this world have not the slightest suspicion that the many different substances of matter are but different states of motion. Now, you're not going to learn that in the universities when you get your degrees. The prodigal son is us. There's a story in the Bible where there are two sons and they are both children of a very rich man. And they decide that they're going to, or one of them does anyway, he decides that he's going to venture off down into the world like Narcissus. He went down, 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 and he saw that he was good looking. And so he fell in love with himself. And this is what we do. We fall in love with this material world and all its pleasures and enticements. We go out there and we get a bit of pain and we get a bit of pleasure. Then we had enough of pain, so we go back to pleasure. And we don't realise that they're one and the same thing. And then when we work out that pleasure is pain and pain is pleasure, then we start thinking about joy and bliss. You see, the prodigal son, he went down and he slept with the prostitutes and he drank wine with his hooligan friends and everything and squandered all his riches. And then he saw, my God, this is vanity. I've come to my senses. I see a bigger picture here. I'm going back to my father because it was much better there. I mean, the food that he gives to his pigs is better than the food I'm eating. So he goes right back to his daddy. When we're out of here, when we're sick of the suffering and the illusion and the material enticements, like the world is so profane, there's advertisements to buy this, and you got this sleazy woman half naked advertising all sorts of products. Buy this and consume that, and here's some money. Come on, get out there and consume as much as you can. That's what these buffoons have created, a world of materialism, because they are materialists. They're not spiritualists. They're not into spirituality. They pretend to be. So the prodigal son, he goes back to his father, and his brother sees him coming up the drive, and the father greets him and kisses him tenderly and says, "My son, you've come back, you've come back." Quickly, he says to the servants, "Get a cow, let's have a feast, let's celebrate this evening." And the brother that stayed with the father up there in heaven, he turns around and says to his father, he says, "What are you doing? You know, I've been with you for so many years, you've never done this for me." And the father says, "Well, he has returned." You know the story of the lost sheep, where the Lord goes out and looks for that one lost sheep? That's what it's talking about. It's us making our return, consciously awakening to our spirituality. And that's why we're here today, to learn more about this. There's no one here. Is anyone here that knows everything? I don't know everything about anything, but I'm sharing what my studies have produced about this subject, and this can help us to reclaim dominion once we know who we are. That we are everything that ever was, everything that is, and everything that will be, as David Icke puts it. And the solutions are here. They're here. I'm going to share those with you. So, all of this system is run on the presumption of your being lost at sea. See, they have these trusts and they administer these trusts for you. Unless you write to the Attorney General and tell him, excuse me, I've come of age and I'm going to be the General Executor from now on. You just step aside, buddy. That's my job. And then you're, in terms of law, your life is back in control. You're in the control seat with the steering wheel in your hands and not these buffoons. Because they will.
Is that the Red Sea that you're talking about? That you go on in Know Thyself as well? Lost at Sea, the Admiralty Law, is that all related to that?
Yeah, pretty much. The Holy See. Why do they have a Holy See? Because they are looking after the Lord's affairs here on earth. Because the Apostle Peter was given the keys of the kingdom by Jesus. So back in 325, with Constantine, the murderer, he established the Church of Peter, St. Peter. So you pay Peter, don't you? Right? The Peter's pence. And that is the system of tax. And then they put words in Jesus' mouth where he says, oh, give unto Caesar what's Caesar's, and pay your taxes like a good Christian slave. You be obedient because God put them there. I don't think so. God gave us law and love and peace, and that's the law that was given to us, not theirs. See, this is the law of the high seas, the Holy See, because you're lost out at sea. You're incompetent. That's the presumption they make. You're a ward of the state. You were born in a military facility, a hospital run by the Knights Hospitalier. Yeah, you find all the knights are in there behind one of these businesses. It's a mafia. They control the crime. They don't. That's why they're bringing you, summoning you to go to church, because, hey, you're not going to get any of our crime business, and we're going to charge you for it. You're going to be paying for trying to dip into our slice of the pie, trying to get a slice of the pie. As Franco Collins shows and proves, they run the crime, and they want it all. Not most of, like a fair mafia boss would do. You know, you've got Don Corleone on that part of town, and then you've got Joe whatever on the other side of town, and they respect their borders, right? These people don't respect you. They'll medicate you with fluoride in your water. They will inject you with thimerosal, with mercury-based thimerosal preservative in your vaccines. That's murdering you. And we bring our children there to be vaccinated and punched with it. And 30 vaccines before the age of 5 now in America. Man, I've never been vaccinated. My mother came out here from Italy, from Calabria in 1956. Didn't know a word of English. Went and studied her brains out. She's quite intellectual and she speaks English very well. Within 2 years, she saw a show on TV. And on that show, they showed how many children have been damaged with vaccinations. This is 1958. You can imagine how much English my mother knew. But then I was born in 63, and she didn't vaccinate any of her children. I've never had a problem physically in my life. I've had one headache. Now, I see people around me, friends of mine that have got arthritis, diabetes, asthma. My God, the list goes on and on and on. Because we're eating aspartame, we're eating all that shit that they put out there deliberately. And we've forgotten nature. We've forgotten who we are, so we don't grab an apple off the tree, which has vitamins and light. See, raw food is light food, and we are light bodies. So our light bodies are being dulled and dulled and dulled and dulled the more of this processed shit that we eat. You see people at supermarkets, they've got boxes of this, cans of that, boxes of everything else, and like, who put them in the box? And how many processes go on before it gets in the box? There's cooking and double cooking. That's what biscuit means. In my language, biscotto means twice cooked. Bis means twice. Cotto means cooked. So you cook them twice, and just get that light out of there. Just strip that food of light. And then put some flavours in there. And some preservative to boot. And eat that, you dumb. And people eat it. You know, they've got this, see, rock up there at the supermarket and they've got boxes of all sorts of cornflakes and all that. My God. Look, Yes, diet this, diet that, white this, white that, everything's bleached. I mean, have you guys ever seen that getting around on the internet? McDonald's? Yes. The poo that they give people to, but they flavour it so it tastes great. But it's poo nonetheless, right? Look at the process, McDonald's. And for all people watching the video, this is a plug for McDonald's. It's pre-chicken nugget meat paste, aka mechanically separated poultry or mechanically separated chicken. The photo has been extensively passed around recently, and for good reason. It's a peek into the rarely seen world of mechanically separated meat or advanced meat recovery, or they call it AMR. You're eating AMR food, good on you! Foodjucate writes, some American figured out in the 1960s that meat processors can eke out a few more % of profit from chickens, turkeys, pigs and cows by scraping the bones 100% clean of meat. This is done by machines, not humans, by passing bones left over after the initial cutting through a high-pressure sieve. The paste you see in the picture above is the result. That's what they stripped off the bones with chemicals, because there's profit in doing so. They're not going to give you real milk and real dairy ice cream and, you know.
It's a chemical strip, not a physical.
Well, hang on a minute. I haven't finished. Just watch what it is. Just listen to this. There's more. Because it's crawling with bacteria, it will be washed with ammonia. Good old ammonia. Soaked in it, actually. Then, because it tastes gross, it will be reflavoured artificially. That's your soft-serve McDonald's. Then, because it is weirdly pink, it will be dyed with artificial colour. That's AMR food, people. The resulting paste goes on to become the main ingredient in many of Australia's favourite mass-produced and processed meat-like foods and snacks: bologna, hot dogs, salami, pepperoni, meat jerky, and of course the ever-polarising chicken nugget, where the paste from the photo above was likely destined. And we bring our kids there and we, oh, you're going to get a soft serve, son, because you've been good. You're really good today at shops. You're going to get a soft serve. Ammonia, artificial flavour. There's no light. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. What's wrong with fruit, you know?
But the light also feeds the intelligence to discern. So it's all, you know, and also all the flavours and the numbers, number food, they create addictions.
Yes. Yeah, spot on.
It's all, you know, self-feeding.
It really is. So anyway, look, the bottom line is that, thanks for that, it's get some light into you, people, and you watch what happens. And turn the TV off, and you know all that. Because otherwise we're not going to make what's coming. There's a big awakening coming, and we're going to benefit from it to varying degrees. We're going back home. There's no mistake about it. There's no mistake about it, and it's happening right before our eyes. Now, I know that because I have direct knowledge, not opinion and not belief. This, what I'm showing on astrotheology and the science and the key of understanding nature, will give you that direct knowledge. You won't be going around like most of the people, full of opinions. And, well, I think that the Labor Party, well, I think that we do this to the economy, we'll fix... You know, there's opinions, they've vomited out, and they're repeaters of false information that's been fed to them by the Illuminati in the first place. And they just go repeating. Not originally. They don't have any information of their own origin. So this gives us direct knowledge. And one fact that I know that is direct knowledge comes from my observations of astronomy. I look up and I can see that in the last 6 months the stars have shifted. They're all shifted. Check out on YouTube a video called "The Shift is About to Hit the Fan" and see what the Eskimos... Yeah. You see these Eskimos, you know, they've got no teeth and everything, old fellas, you know, little wise men sitting there in the interview, one after another being interviewed. And they're sitting there and they're explaining, they're going, the sun used to set over there, it sets over there now, And instead of 1 hour, window of hour where we can do our hunting, we now have 2 windows. And the angle of the sun is much brighter and all our snow's melting. I know that. I know that. I don't have to believe there's people, because I've been paying attention to the position of the stars for a long time. Tonight at 9 o'clock you'll see Virgo, right? In the west. I'm disoriented. Over there. East is that away. Over there, right? You see the Virgin, and then you see Scorpio over here. Scorpio sets at about midnight. It's beautiful. And in fact, in the book of Revelation, it talks about this. It says, and the red dragon pursues the woman, and the woman flees into the wilderness. You see, when Virgo goes below the horizon, anything below the horizon, when you lose sight of those stars in the west, they've gone to the valley of death. They've gone into the wilderness. And Scorpio is always... There's the Virgin, and she's about there now at 9 o'clock. And the red dragon, there's a red star in Scorpio, there's only 4 in the sky. And this one, Antares, that's a mother of a star, that one. It's so big and glorious. And that is the red dragon. And it pursues the woman. Its claws reach out to the 2 stars of Libra. And Libra sits on the equinox. And so that's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I'll show you that later. When the Virgin goes down into the wilderness, the red dragon pursues her, and the red dragon, it says in Revelation, vomits forth a river to drown the woman. Well, the river is coming up in Taurus, Eridanus. It's a extra zodiacal sign of Taurus. It's called Eridanus, or the Jordanus. The river in the sky, the Nile.
Is that one of the Decas?
Yes, it's one of the... there's Orion, there's Auriga, and there's Eridanus. You see, he is opposite. The red dragon is opposite the rock of God, the bull. The opposites are always, you've got to check the opposites, right? Sagittarius is opposite Gemini, right? Capricorn is opposite Cancer. Probably be better if I pull this down. And this sky chart, this is the one that will explain all the mythologies. You won't have to worry about interpreting the Vedas or the Mahabharata or anything. It's this. So you look at your opposites, okay? Capricorn, Cancer. Aquarius, John the Baptist with King Herod. The fish and the bread, Christian symbols. Aries and Libra. Here the Jews begin their sacred year. Here the Jews begin their secular year. And that's how it's... See, notice the green and the red. This is the Red Sea, the winter. Because springtime, the blossom, sun comes up, blossom. Everything begins. Everything begins over in Aries, okay? The horoscope begins with Aries. Right Ascension starts with Aries. The equinox is there at Aries, so the blossom represents the start of the season because everything's dead here, so it starts here. And this is the Easter, the Passover, the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world because of the winter months. The sun now is growing, and so the fruits, then the harvest, and then you preserve the fruits so you can survive the winter. And then bang again, the blossom. It's the sperm of the sun. That's what it represents. Matter is born at 0 planes. That's a 0 plane, last time I checked. 12 hours of night, 12 hours of dark, the 21st of March, the equinox. These are the magic days. These are the solstices. That's the cross. Matter is born at 0 planes of equal potential. That's where matter is born, at equal planes of equal potential. 0 planes of equal potential. Polarization builds it up to maturity at 90 degrees, because this is polarization, the feminine signs. Earth and water pull. See, the cardinal points, fire and air are masculine. That's a phase of electricity and another phase of electricity in the sine wave. But these 90 degrees pulling away and giving amplitude to the wave is what causes the matter. And let's hear how Walter Russell puts it. Builds it up to maturity at 90 degrees from 0 planes, depolarization, then returns to 0 point at its birth. So, at that equal point, that's where the blossom begins. That's where the matter, the fruit starts and begins. So that there's, matter is here, it's not here. Here is just death and cold and winter. Because in the northern hemisphere, of course, remember that, it's opposite in the southern hemisphere. But the mythology still stands and it still applies to us in the southern hemisphere. Please don't be confused. All you need to do is to understand this is probably one of the greatest books that you will ever read, along with his other one. There are 2 volumes, Thomas H. Burgoyne, where he explains all of this. All of it. That's where I got it from. Here he explains why the slippage of precession does not affect the science of astrology, nor do the hemispheres of north and south. It's just an illusion. The point of equilibrium here is the point where this Earth receives its electric pulse every year. That is the point. This is the great magical point, right here. And that's why everything happens here. Everything happens in Aries. I can give you a bunch of reasons why. I've written them down here just so that I could share this with you. Aries, first degrees of Aries is right ascension. Cardinal fire, cardinal being close to the source. It's cardinal fixed mutable is birth, growth, decay. That's what it is. So spring is born here, fixes here at the cross quarter day, and then decays in the mutable sign. And the mutable always has two natures, man and horse, 2 fish, and Mercury, 2. Duality, mutability. So spring is born, fixates, then changes, okay? The horoscope begins here. Adam Kadmon begins there. It's the head of the man. See, can you see the head? There's the neck, and these are the chakras. Right? This is the spiritual wisdom that was bequeathed to us. That's the man. That's Adam Kadmon. In fact, this is the ascendant, this is the descendant, and this is the meridian. Adam. That's Adam. The man above. So below. You see how we need this science so that we know who we are? God damn it, we need this science. It's there. It's just there. You can just point to all these. I can go on and on and on, and you've probably seen some of the videos where I do.
It explains the grammar of everything, really, doesn't it?
This explains everything, man.
It's like, sort of like the ancients have compendiumized everything right down into basically a seed.
To this one science. This is Isis unveiled, man. We've just unveiled. This is the key to understanding everything that happens electrically in this universe, because it's an electric universe. Here it is. The 1 becomes the 2, becomes the 3, becomes the 4 elements, becomes the 7 planets, and the 7 chakras that are in there, becomes the 12. And that's why Jesus has 12 apostles. The 12 tribes of Israel. We're all the 12 tribes of Israel. I'm Aryan. Hands up. Any Geminis? Sagittarians? Scorpios? Well, this is it. This is Benjamin and Naphtali and Asher and Dan and Gad. We are the Israelites. These are the 12 tribes of Israel. Israel is the sun. Isis, Ra and El is this wheel. And they hide that. And this is the disgrace of the churches. And this guy, when he busted them 170 years ago, 30 years after him came Kersey Graves, and he revealed to the world in this book that the 16 crucified saviours that are to be found all over the planet are one and the same person. It's the Son. And in his address to the clergy, you want to read that, 5 pages where he says, clergy types, your business, it's over. It's over. He said that 150 years ago. He gave notice to them back then. Why are we still here? And the churches have so much power? Because this is the power of the illusion. We need to bust the illusion and help churchgoers, because they will never be saved by waiting for someone to come and save them. Salvation and ascension and consciousness comes from within. We don't do the work, we don't get the cookies. We don't. Now, Interesting, when you put videos out on YouTube, you get comments. And some of them are great. One guy, he says to me, Santos, you know how you said that Little Red Riding Hood, the son... Let me read that from John Thackeray Bunce's book, okay, on fairy tales. This is written in the 1800s. Just for the people who have not seen my astrotheology videos. There's the Earth, there's the equator, there's the Tropic of Cancer, there's the Tropic of Capricorn, and there's the sine wave that pretty much, there's the sine wave, right? That's the obliquity of the ecliptic, because the ecliptic is the path of the sun that it appears to make as it goes around, as our Earth goes around at 23.5 degrees. And the obliquity is 23.5 degrees. The true science is this, that sine wave is closing in on itself. In 140,000 years, it will zero out. The axis of our Earth is not fixed at 23.5 degrees. It does one complete 360-degree revolution every 2,160,000 years. Now, did I say 2,160,000 years? That's the width of the moon. That's the harmonic of everything to do with precession. This is the magic number. This is the magic number. And that's how long it takes for the Earth's axis to go right around 360 degrees. You know how they say to you that, the Chilean earthquake and the Japan earthquake caused the tilt of the Earth to straighten up? No, that's what happens when you're a consensus scientist and you study effects rather than causes. It's the tilt of the Earth that is causing the earthquakes. And some other things, which I'm going to reveal, because once you understand how the solar system works, then you're going to be onto these scientists and why they're telling us little stories.
Does the planet grow every time we meet Sirius?
Yes. No, well, the planet is... I'm going to get to that. The planet is expanding. It was once much smaller. Earth, as its orbit slows and its rotation increases, so all planetary bodies, their rotation increases and their orbits decrease in velocity. So they keep a balance of centripetal and centrifugal forces, and they don't fly off on a tangent, okay? This is what your scientists won't tell you. He says, oh, the sun's in the middle of the solar system, all these planets go around it on the same plane, virtually on the same plane, right? Some of them are a little bit skew, but the point is that they claim that we are orbiting the sun. We don't. We orbit with the sun. The sun is corkscrewing through the heavens at massive velocities, and the planets, Mercury is just sitting behind it, rotating every 88 days, Venus, and as they do, their orbits slow down and their rotation speeds up as they grow, and they go further and further away from their primary, and then they become stars, which our Earth is becoming. It's becoming a star. Because planets are embryos. They are not born. Stars are born. And that's what we are destined to be, according to all the... Look, I brought Ovid along. I brought the greatest of all of the books that talk about the soul, Scipio's Dream. And this is Macrobius's commentary. Macrobius was a Roman writer in the 4th century who explained this. I'm going to read out of this. So, Little Red Riding Hood, as it is told in our nursery tales, is the evening sun, which is always described as red or golden. The old grandmother is the earth to whom the rays of the sun bring warmth and comfort. You're starting to get this, right? The old grandmother, isn't that beautiful? Is the earth to whom the rays of the sun bring warmth and comfort. Isn't it beautiful when you start understanding the fairy tales and the Bible and all those grotesque stories like Jonah being swallowed by a whale, Samson killing 1,000 Philistines with a jawbone of an axe, you know? I mean, come on, like God's going to bless him as a judge for going around killing people. He killed 30 men that came to his wedding. Sorry, no, he didn't kill 30 men. He killed 30 men, murdered them for their undergarments and their cloaks. Because he made a riddle on his wedding night. He said, look, if you can guess this riddle, I promise you, whoever guesses the riddle, I will give you 30 undergarments. He said this to his 30 men that came to his wedding. See, 30 is... These are the 30 men. Samson is the son, because Shimshon, you Arabic? Yeah. Good on you. Shimshon, what does it mean? The son. Yeah. It's the little son. See, so Samson, one of those judges of Israel who kills 30 men, that's the sun when it goes through a sign. When the sun goes through Aries, it kills the lamb. And it slaughters the lamb, and the lamb was slaughtered. How many times do you read that in the Bible? So Shimshon, as he goes through those 30 degrees, he kills... So at his wedding, they guessed the riddle. So he was like, oh no, all flustered. Now what am I going to do? I've got to make good with my promise. So he goes down to the village, I think he goes down to Gaza or one of those cities there. So you see the history is all painted into it, so it looks like it's historical. It's one of the tricks that they do. And it fools people. So he goes down there and he slaughters 30 men, takes their underwear and brings them back to his friends at the wedding and says, there you go, there's your... Now, and that's... we're telling kids, little children that go to church these stories, and expect them to believe these grotesque things. But when you understand them, they're beautiful. Okay, so the wolf, which is a well-known figure for the clouds and blackness of night, is the dragon in another form. First he devours the grandmother, that is, he wraps the earth in thick clouds, which the evening sun is not strong enough to pierce through. Then, with the darkness of night, he swallows up the evening sun itself, and all is dark and desolate. Then, as in the German tale, the night thunder and the storm winds are represented by the loud snoring of the wolf. And then the huntsman, the morning sun, comes in all his strength and majesty and chases away the night clouds and kills the wolf, and revives old grandmother Earth and brings Little Red Riding Hood to life again. Or another explanation may be that the wolf is the dark and dreary winter that kills the earth with frost and hides the sun with fog and mist. And then the spring comes. Anyway, whether you take the daily cycle of this as day and night or summer and winter matters not. Because this guy on my YouTube thing 3 weeks ago says, oh, Santos, interesting how you said that Little Red Riding Hood, the sun, turns red at sunset. Turns red at sunset. See, this is 12 midday, 12 midnight. This is sunset, 6 p.m. This turns red, Little Red Riding Hood, and there's the Virgin. And he said, do you know where the wolf is? See, I never thought of this. He says, Lupus, the constellation of Lupus. Where would it be? Anyone got any idea?
Upper right of Scorpio.
Upper right of Scorpio. Well...
Or just outside of it.
You might be right.
I recall from one of your previous presentations.
Yeah, there's Lupus. He's in Libra. The wolf of the night. The wolf of the past. The howling wolf. Our guilt-ridden consciences. Has to do with darkness. There he is. And where would Perseus be? The slayer of Medusa, the starlit night. Perseus is the sun. And when he rises in the morning, boom, he chops off Medusa's head. And he relishes in the conquest. Well, he'd be in Aries, wouldn't he? Yeah, that's where Perseus lives, in Aries, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock every morning. Perseus, the slayer of Medusa. And there is the wolf, Lupus.
All these documentaries that are coming out explaining these ancient myths and everything that you see on BBC and National and all that sort of stuff, that's just further confusing the whole story by still keeping it literal. Or putting it under myth without explaining the astrotheology side of things.
Yeah, be careful when you see people trying to explain things their way, the academic way, the way they've been drilled. It's brainwashing, mind control. The Vatican has controlled people's delusions and illusions for 2,000 years now. But the age of Pisces, which is Christianity, the fish, that's the Vesica Pisces, right? The two circles that share a common radius, and the number there is 153. 153. Remember, Jesus is about to ascend, and he's cooking some fish, and because he's just died, right? And he's on the beach, and there's his resurrected, and there's the disciples on a boat, and they haven't caught anything. So he says, "Hey, have you caught anything?" Peter says, "No." And so he says, "Well, cast your net on the other side." And they do, and all of a sudden the nets were bursting. And they counted the fish in the last chapter of the Gospel of John, and there were 153 fish. Pisces is the sign of the fish. We have been going through the sign of Pisces for 2,000 years. Now, when I bring out some books to bust the Christ the literal historical Christ who was supposed to be born on the year 1 BCE, and hence we get our date 2011 from Jesus, that's a load of hogwash. It ain't pinned on a Jesus. It was Caesar Augustus, and I'm going to prove it. Caesar Augustus was the king. You look at the coins of Caesar Augustus, you see I've got pictures. Oh, they're coming. He's got a crown of thorns. He is the god. They were worshipped as gods. JC is Julius Caesar.
Is that where the law gets all of its justification?
It is. It means the same thing. There's Macrobius. I'm going to show you that he's given all these names of gods. Mars, Neton, Draco, Hercules, Adonis, Attis, Jupiter, Bacchus, Janus, Helios, Osiris, Hades. They all mean the sun. It's all the sun. He said that in the 4th century. The same guy who I'm going to read, he wrote these two books, The Saturnalia and The Dream of Scipio Commentary. And I'm going to be reading this in a minute. Guess who he says on page 215 of this book? Just guess who he says was the sun? Ieus. That'd be Jesus. That'd be Jesus. And I'll show you that the calendar is pinned on the Julian calendar. The uncle and the man who adopted Octavius, who changed his name to Caesar Augustus. It's pinned on that, okay? There's no mistake about this. There's no mistake about it. The worship of Caesar Augustus, Alexander Del Mar, proves it beyond a doubt. It's all based on that. And Julius Caesar and the Flavians, the Flavian dynasty. That book explains the whole thing. There's many more. Look, I could have brought a ton of books. I had to leave many behind, but I'm going to go through these quickly to show what's in the content in there. So if you wish to, you can grab one of these books on Amazon and study the subject. It's urgent. It's really, really...
Do you have a list of all those books?
Yes, I do. At the end of my video, The Key, on YouTube, there's a list of 85 books. They are the best. I've put them there for that reason. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Well, I'm a slow reader. Yeah, I'm a slow reader. And but I, sometimes have to torture myself to just read, because there's great information. And I feel like Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, who was the Hermeticist in the Renaissance time, right? He was a disciple of, a follower of Marsilio Ficino, the guy who translated the Hermetica. Giovanni de' Medici gave him the job. He said, stop translating Plato, put the Hermetica on the press, on the Gutenberg press, and then the Renaissance flowered from the Hermetica. That was Marsilio Ficino, and his student, at the age of 24, Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, I feel like him. He said the famous words, he said, divine providence has caused certain books to fall in my hands. He said that 500 years ago. He said that to de' Medici one day when he saw him in Rome. And those words are famous. And I feel like that. When I started seriously studying this subject only 4 years ago. This was the first book I read on the 19th of October 2007. I've been going to Jehovah's Witness I was a Jehovah's Witness for 20 years and fell into, well, I stopped going to their meetings in 2005 and sort of hit limbo. But I did my studies, I read the Bible, and I mastered that book. I know it better than any theologian types out there, any of them, because I used to read it. Read that, and I opened my eyes. It talks about the Zionist Jews, the people who claim to be Jews, the synagogue of Satan, who claim to be Jews, they're Khazarians, they're not Jews, and who are running the world. They run Rome. See, people write into me saying, what about the Jews? Certainly they're evil and they're doing this and they're doing that. Well, if you understand how this bunch of criminals have hijacked the wonderful good name of the Jew, which means, well, look in Acts chapter 2 and you'll understand who Jews are. They're intellectual, wise men from every country under the sun. They're not a race. Anyway, Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, 24 years of age, he went down to Rome from Renaissance Florence, and he said, he put up all these posters around Rome saying, I will debate with any one of you buffoon apostolic senate of cardinals. I'll debate with you and show you that everything is syncretic. And that's what I'm doing. I'm here to follow this guy's work, and Giordano Bruno, who was murdered by Rome in 1600. Those two I'm modelling. He went down to Rome with 900 theses 30 years before Martin Luther and his 30 bullshit version. This was the real version, because he was trying to syncretise, not divide even further, like Martin Luther did and brought on a 30-year war and slaughtered and butchered and Calvin and all those buffoons and the people who follow them. They're just a bunch of murderers. That's all they are. And if you ever want to read the best book on philosophy, that's Pico della Mirandola's little book on philosophy, saying only science and philosophy will save mankind. And guess who else says that? The genius, Walter Russell. At the end of his book, after proving that the whole world is electric, and none of this other, well, you heard that list of all those subatomic particles.
Does he predate Tesla?
No, he's a contemporary. Yes. At the end of his book, he says, knowledge alone will lead man to that supreme discovery. It is the office and responsibility of science to illumine the way for all men who are seeking the kingdom of heaven. It's not the churches. Science is their enemy. Now, here's an amazing fact about the Bible, guys. This will blow your mind. This date here is equivalent to Nisan 14 of the Jews. It's the Passover, because the sun gets killed on the 21st of December. Finally it climbs up out of the winter, the Red Sea. This is red for a reason, and this is green, the lush photosynthesis. And you see how it corresponds with the torso of the human being with all its chakras. And notice the red here, where Little Red Riding Hood, the Red Sea, because the green leaves of the tree begin to turn red here in September in the Northern Hemisphere. So the sun is, so they look at the red tree and they go, the red leaves, and they say, oh yeah, well, the sun's now passing through the Red Sea. And see the chakras, the bottom chakra, it's the red one. The violet one's up here, the crown chakra. Let's have a look at some images, shall we? There's the name of the sun, I-E-S in Greek. I-E-S, the yes. I've shown that in other videos, okay? I've shown that. There's the Korean flag. Bit of science there, isn't it? Spirit and matter. Fire for red, water for matter. Earth, air, fire and water. That's the Korean flag, South Korean flag. That corresponds with the sine wave, because it goes around into itself. Red and blue. Spirit, summer, and matter, winter. Good and evil. Why would these people be wearing these solar symbols? That's the crown chakra. The crown chakra is These people are kings. They are Christs. Horus is Christ. See the serpent? The Uraeus and the eagle at the top of the Tutankhamun's mask there? When you bring that Kundalini serpent up and you drive it up and you get all your chakras flying and spinning in your Merkaba wheel, your light body, then you get her flying out of here. There's the chakras, guys. The bottom chakra has 4 petals. 6 petals. 10. Heart chakra. 12. 16. 96. Any mathematicians around? How much does that add up to? 144. Multiplied by the 1,000-leafed clover of the crown chakra, that's 144,000. You know the song, I let the saints... when the saints go marching in, oh Lord, I want to be in that number. The number is the 144,000. If you want to be one of the 144,000, you have to work on your chakras. That's the seal on the forehead. That's in the forehead. That they were sealed. It says in Revelation chapter, I think it's chapter 12. See, I'm glad I did my fictional study of the Bible, because I know it backward. And I heard, and next, Revelation chapter 14, it says, next in my vision I saw Mount Zion. That's Mount Zion, man. So he saw Mount Zion, and standing on it a lamb. This is the head, and this stands on the holy, holy mountain. March used to be called Primus. Primus means the first. Primus, Secundus, Tertius, Quartus, Quintus, Sextus, and then Sept is 7. See, September is the 7th month, if you start at Aries, where you're supposed to. The blossom begins here, the start of the North cycle. The ascendant begins here. Remember, A, ascendant, descendant, meridian, spells out the name Adam. There's a lot of reasons why it all happens and starts there. But the holy mountain that it's talking about in Revelation chapter 14 and the 144,000 stand on that holy mountain, who had with him 144,000 people, all with his name and his father's name written on their foreheads, sealed in their foreheads. It's the chakras. That's the 144,000. Check out the work of Maurice Cottrell. And he's got a series called Secret of the Gods, the Serpent, something. But anyway, Maurice Cottrell, he's got a few videos, check it out, where he shows, he gets a picture of Pacal, the jade mask of Pacal in Palenque, Mexico. And he gets two of those pictures of the jade mosaic mask of Pacal, and he superimposes them 14.4 degrees. And guess what appears on the forehead of Pacal? The number 144,000. He must have read Revelation over there in Mexico hundreds of years ago. What's this? The Kabbalistic tree of the Jews. Can you see the Christ hiding behind there? See, your 7 chakras are equivalent to the 10 spheres of the Kabbalistic tree. The tree of life is in you. The Christ is in you. You are the Christ. That's what the Apostle Paul is talking about when he says the Christ within. Where is the Holy Grail? Does anyone know where the constellation Crater is? Well, the constellation Crater is right here in Cancer. Because, as I'll read to you in the commentary of Macrobius, the 12th chapter, he goes on to explain how our souls come from the Milky Way, the milk, the mother. See, our Milky Way galaxy is Isis. It's feminine. And her partner is Andromeda. Andro, in Greek, last time I checked, was husband, man. Andros is man. Right? Androgynous, all those andro words. So Andromeda, our next door galaxy is the man, the male, the partner of Isis, our Milky Way galaxy. Explained here very carefully. Doesn't explain that, but it explains what the Milky Way means. The origin of all these souls that are found here today on this planet. And it comes down the 7-rung ladder of Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, the Moon. So Saturn is the first and the Moon is the last. This is the vision that John had in Revelation. The Moon is the Alpha, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn is the Omega, the Alpha and the Omega, because the 7 planets are the 7 vowels, according to the Jews. And the consonants, the 12 consonants, are the 12 signs of the zodiac. And when you add the Earth, Neptune and Uranus, you get the number 22. They all add up to 22. The tarot cards, the letters of the Jewish alphabet, etc., etc., etc. It's all here. The tarot is this. The Torah is this. Everything is this. Everything. The whole lot. The whole, everything you need to know. That's nature. That's how it works. Anywhere in the universe. Okay, so at this point we shall discuss the order of the signs by which the souls descend from the sky to the infernal regions of this life. So he's discussing the most important thing that you could ever discuss, right? What could be more important than knowing how the souls came from the Milky Way and descended, like he said, to the infernal regions where we are now. The Milky Way girdles the zodiac, its great circle meeting it obliquely so that it crosses at the 2 tropical signs, Capricorn and Cancer. Because when the sun climbs up from Aries, the start of the year, and it climbs up to Capricorn, to Cancer, that little day, that good old day, the 21st of June, magic day, the longest day of the year, and it goes down to Capricorn. This fella, Cancer, is ruled by the moon. Because the tilt of the Earth causes it to be closer to the sun in the northern hemisphere. Not closer physically, not the planet closer to the sun, because it's not. Okay, it's the tilt of the Earth. So in the northern, if here is the sun, in the northern hemisphere, the tilt will be like that in summer, because and these people in Australia will be experiencing winter. And then when it goes around the other side of the sun, it's the opposite. But because it's closest, and the moon is the closest sphere to the Earth, they place the sphere in Cancer. The moon, that's how it sits. Always sits like that. You never change it like that. That's the Jewish candelabra, the 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's Cancer, there's the moon. The moon rules Cancer. Guess who rules Capricorn? Good old Saturn. And this is what the ancients knew, and they explained that our souls descend from the moon sphere, and descend and ascend out of the rings of Saturn. Those rings of Saturn, you know, Saturn, he's got the scythe, he's the Grim Reaper, dressed in black. Well, they're the same people in your church who are dressed in black. The Saturn church is the Latin church. That's why they give you a whole bunch of Latin words when they summons you, you know, the accused, a hearing. Because it's the Inquisition, man. It's still on. Because we haven't stopped it. We're going to stop it. We are stopping it. Are you enjoying this? Isn't it great when you start putting it together, guys? It's there. I'm just pointing to it. I didn't make any of this up. You know? It's like a watchmaker. I always say this. You know, a watchmaker, I guarantee you, if you pull one of those ladies' watches apart, right, if you know how to do it for a start, and you put it down, there's no one in this room that will be able to put it together again. Would they? Anyone? But you get one of those jewellers in Switzerland, and he's got his little thing on his, give me 5 minutes, there you go. And you're off and you're telling the time for the rest of, because the watch works, because he puts it together. It's all here, but you've got to read, right? And what do they tell you in church? Well, when I was going to church anyway, the Jehovah's Witnesses, all brothers, make sure you just read the Bible and the Watchtower tract publications, because everything else is from the devil. I think the people who invent the devil are the devil, because they promote him. It's a fictional concept. They promote him, so let them have it. It's theirs. Don't take any ownership of their fictional concepts, because it's doing them harm more than it is doing anyone else. And the Bible tells you, this man who in 1830, remember, he wrote a sermon which is not in that book. That book has 24 sermons. This is one that didn't get published, but he wrote a sermon, Belief Not the Safe Side. It's not. And he proves in here that the Bible tells you that it's not. The scripture, where the Christians and the churchgoers say, Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name and expel demons in your name and perform wonderful works in your name? And I will say to you, get away from me, you workers of lawlessness. I never knew you. That's churchgoers, because we're not doing that. We're not ranting and raving about how we're doing all these church things for Jesus, like converting pagans who understand the cycles of nature. Let's divorce them from nature and bring them to Christ, shall we? And of course, if they don't get baptised, we've always got the sword in the right hand. The Bible's in the left. Souls are believed to pass through these portals when going from the sky to the south, to the earth, and returning from the earth to the sky. For this reason, one is called the portal of men and the other the portal of gods. Take note of this, guys. This is rich. This is how we came here. They knew it. They knew it. And this is only one. I can read from the Kybalion. I can read from, my God, Virgil, Porphyry, Plutarch. Plutarch's the great one. Ad nauseum. They knew that the souls came from here. The rishis go back to the moon. Then they send in order, Mercury, and they get out of this time-conquered place, Saturn. That's why the Latin church, the Saturn church, controls the Julian calendar. The one that has enslaved us all, the Julio-Gregorian calendar. Rome rules the world, man. They own the calendar, they own the alphabet, that even in the Asian countries and African countries will have on their computer fingerboards, everywhere. In their law courts, everywhere. It's this language, the Latin language. They own the concept of Christian democracy based on a historical Christ. Right? What else is Rome given? Come on, man, it's everything. It's all architecture. You go to Melbourne, look around. It's Roman, Grecian, Roman. There's a few Greek things there, Corinthian pillars and whatnot, but it's all Roman.
And it'll all fall down as soon as we start shaking a bit and vibrate higher.
It's a house of cards, man, and we're going to blow it down. I'll get back to the cup, because I want to show you how the cup was placed here, because here it says that when the souls come down, Crater is here in between Leo and Cancer, because we drink of the intoxicating liquor of the cup as our souls descend and we forget who we are. Because we drink from that cup, the Holy Grail. Remember, Perseus is over here. Everybody's in their right positions. I can go on and on and on, and I recommend, I'm not going to do it now because I really want to get into some meaty other stuff other than astrotheology. I have 7 3-hour products on YouTube, on the internet, that I encourage you to get into. Get into them. It's free on the internet. You know? Santos Bonači Astrotheology. My YouTube site is
Mr. Astrotheology.
Mr. Astrotheology. You're a subscriber, right? Yeah. So check them out, and you'll see all the dates. I've placed all the dates there, man. I've gone into so many books to show you how all the dates, all of them, they're all there. And as the sun goes, we go. See, the sun is born here and conquers. Starts waxing up the mountain, just like the moon does, right? It conquers, and as it conquers, the moon, see, the moon takes 14 days to go to full moon, and then new moon, full moon. That's the same as the sun, exactly the same. Full sun, new sun. So that's why you celebrate on the 25th of December, the birthday of the sun. And then, of course, the sun travels 30 degrees and it finds itself in John the Baptist territory. You see John the Baptist baptizing the sun? You see, because January is January the Baptist. John the Baptist. And every year, after 30 days of climbing, this is the wet season. And so the sun gets a hell of a baptizing by Aquarius. And then it comes into February. Well, Febru, last time I checked, in Latin means purification. And in fact, the 1st of February is the day of purification of the Virgin. That's where she purifies herself. So does Jesus, so do we. You know, because we follow the sun. It's an allegory which has a benefit. It has an ethos, an ethic, which far outweighs the morals that they teach you in church. They steal your ethics. But because the sun, as the sun grows, gets purified, then lengthens, and here we have Lent, where we eat fish, the 40 days of Lent from this cross-quarter day, February the 1st, Groundhog's Day, to the equinox, or there's 40 days in there, and that is Lent. It's short for lengthen, because the sun is lengthening, and then bang, equal. And then you've got longer days, shorter nights, instead of shorter days, longer nights, down here. So everybody hates this. This is the accursed. This is hell. In Italian, inverno is pretty much sounds like inferno to me. Just one letter changed, the V and the F. Inverno, inferno. Inverno is down here. This is summer. Summer is the paradise. This is the green paradise that we all wait for. And remember, the blossom is here, bang, the sperm of the sun, and it produces fruit. And then it's harvested in the Virgin, and then it's preserved so that we... You see, so this teaches, this is an ethic. As the sun conquers, so do we. What do we conquer? Well, we activate our 7 powers and turn our vices into virtues. Bang, bang, bang. We get out of the 3 bottom chakras: survival, sex, and what's the other one? Power, right? This is where your George Bushes would have to be, wouldn't they? Halliburton, we're going to kick your butt, rack. And then we come into the middle one, the sun, ruled by the sun, the heart chakra. And we wake up and Jesus is knocking on the door, and we open the door and share an evening meal. That's what it's talking about. When it knocks here. When you hear that knocking, when you hear the calling, see there's 3 types of people on the planet. The captive, the chosen, the called, and the chosen. The captive are the herd. The herd. That's what Parmenides called the captives in his poem. He had a beautiful poem. He was the contemporary of Pythagoras, and he said, I looked upon the herd. Back then, in the Bronze Age, there was a herd. Imagine now, in the Iron Age. They're the captives. They're in jail. Then they get called. Someone knocks, you know, the higher mind starts to awaken, and you start going, hey, yeah, it's not like I've been told. It's not like I've been told. Something's wrong. Something's really wrong. Leonardo da Vinci, genius or not? Yeah, genius, okay. If you find from your own experience that something is a fact and it contradicts what some authority has written down, then you must abandon the authority and base your reasoning on your own findings. Anyway, look, I won't read that because I want to move on. It's in here, it's beautiful. Where he says, and the cup has been placed here because as the souls descend, they drink of intoxication. And that's why there is opinion about the divinity. This church says he's angry, this church says he's loving, another church says he's Jewish, another church says he's whatever. Opinion, 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 opinion. Because they drank too much of that cup. That's what it says. They said some drink more than others. The cup of intoxication. It's worth reading. It's Scipio's Dream. It's only 10 pages, the original of that. So there's the cup. Now, in the book of Revelation, there's what's described. That's how the Lord God is described. Right? Pay attention to this, because there are 7 features, and it's describing Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. All right? Let me read that. Okay, so in the first chapter of Revelation, John describes the Lord. He sees the Lord. And that's that image. You see the sword coming out of the mouth? That's Mars. Mars always carries a sword. Mars is over here with Perseus too. Mars rules Aries. Sword is there, man, to conquer the darkness. Mars conquers the darkness every morning at 6 a.m. and every springtime. That's the sword. The grey hair, that's good old Kronos. Old man Kronos. He's got the grey hair. It's funny, we're talking about God as a bloke, as a he, gender, and yet he has a girdle about his bosom, about his paps. Why would you have a girdle around you like a bra? Oh, well, that's Venus. Anyway, look, I'll read it from the Bible. And I turned around to see who had spoken to me. And when I turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands, and surrounded by them, a figure like a son of man. So it's definitely identified as a man. Dressed in a long robe, tied at the waist with a golden girdle, tied at the paps, is what most versions say. His head and his hair were white as white wool or as snow. His eyes like a burning flame. His feet like burnished bronze when it has been refined in the furnace. And his voice like the sound of an ocean. In his right hand he was wielding 7 stars. Would they be the planets that dominate the 7 days of the week? Sunday, the sun; Monday, the moon; Saturn day for Saturn, etc. They're the 7 stars. Out of his mouth came a sharp sword, double-edged, and his face was like the sun shining with all its force, because it was the sun. You see, this guy, the guy who wrote the book, James, I think his name is James Price, James M. Price, in the 1800s, and he had this image, and I had to copy it and share it with you today, because it exposes there what the book of Revelation is all about. The book of Revelation is an initiation, and that's what's happening to you guys today. You're getting an initiation in the holy doctrine. This is the hidden manna, the hidden knowledge, the da'at of the Kabbalistic tree, the 11th pseudo-sephira. You open knowledge, as Walter Russell said in his book, knowledge, science, is the one that will get you to the kingdom of heaven. See, science and knowledge are one and the same word. Scienza, in my language, conoscenza, it's the same word. You see, we think it's like you've got to study in a university, that's science. No, science is knowledge. Kronos, the white hair of Hori. Zeus, Jupiter, the blazing eyes of wide seeing. The keen sword of Aries, Mars. The shining face of Ilios, the sun. The chiton and girdle of Aphrodite, Venus. The swift feet of Hermes, Mercury, Hermes. Hermes is Hermes. The wave-murmuring voice of Selene. Selene, Magdalene, Mary Magdalene. Anything with a Helen is the moon in all the mythologies. So Selene is the moon, the Alpha and the Omega, the 7 vowels. A, E, I, O, U, and O. Now, here's an interesting fact that's going to blow your mind. I was getting to that, and boy, I sure did deviate, didn't I? Remember Nisan 14 over here? All right. Nisan 17 is 3 days after Nisan 14, which is basically the crossing at the equator, the holy day, the equinox, the one and only holy day, the beginning of the sine wave, the beginning of everything. There, right there. Nisan 17 happens right here, okay? Guess what has happened on that day. Noah lands on Mount Ararat on Nisan 17. His boat that he made, Nisan 17, bang, crashes on Mount Ararat. Jesus ascends to heaven on Nisan 17, and the Israelites come out of the Red Sea on Nisan 17. Check it out. Check it out. Because that is busted. That one, you want to learn that one, you might want to read this book. This guy's great. He's got 6 books on Amazon. They're all about $5 each. And he's got the best astrotheology. His name is Malik H. Jabbar. So, yeah, he's probably Egyptian. The Egyptians know their stuff, man. They know the astrotheology. Check out some of the great, like Ahmed Osman. Check out his works. How he explains how, when you're reading the Bible about Moses and Jesus and all these characters, go to the 18th dynasty of Egypt and you'll find all the characters there. Because what the ruling current empire does is it grabs the mythologies from the skies and brings them down to earth and applies it to the ruling dude. Like Julius Caesar is Jesus Christ. Rome borrowed the Jesus story and made it historical to suit Rome, to gather taxes. How do I know this? Well, let's see what the Oracle of Delphi has to say. Plutarch, one of the most prolific writers of the 1st century. He wrote 84 books, right? I'm going to read from there and show how he had to debunk a guy called Ephemeris for doing this, for going around making mythologies and placing them on the earth so that the silly Greeks believed that Hercules was a man. And the silly Egyptians started to believe that Osiris was actually a man, and Plutarch ridicules him. He says, well, there's a tomb for Osiris in Memphis, there's one in Thebes, there's one in they're all over the place because they think that he walked the earth. Osiris didn't walk the earth. When Osiris gets cut up into 14 different, his body gets cut up into 14 different pieces, right? Well, there are 14 lunar mansions above the equator, and there are 14 lunar mansions below the equator. So the moon is Isis here, but she is her sister, her dark sister, Nephthys, over here. And so she has to collect the 14 pieces, the 14 houses below, when Osiris, because Osiris dies here, the sun is Horus over here at the horizon, Ra at the radiant, royal, regal position at 12 o'clock midday, summer, Set when it sets, or you can call him Atum, which is autumn, the fall, autumn, Set, sun sets, Atum, autumn, and then he's called Osiris in the tomb, and he's black. Of course, because Saturn is black. Saturn rules here, down in winter. Osiris rules, that's the tomb. And in the Bible, when Jesus resurrects Lazarus, well, that would be Lasirus, because it's an Aramaic version of the Egyptian story of Osiris, where the sun says, Osiris, come out of the tomb, and he is born as his son, Horus, the son of Osiris, on the horizon every day. That's the tomb, the Red Sea, Hades, Tartarus. It's all there. I'll just read from Plutarch in a minute. I'm flying along. I know quite a few of you I can see are sort of like going... It's a big download of information, but as I said, you can look over the video in your... Just cruise along with this, you know. Don't worry about taking notes and everything, because you... But just cruise along with it, and when you watch the video, then you'll remember all these points. They're good points. I've tried to put them all together on a schedule, and I'm sticking to the schedule too, by the way. All right, so don't think I've gone on too many tangents here. We're going to get through what I promise we'll get through. We will bust the law, the religion, and the science. The science is great. He says here, I hesitate lest this thing... This is the 1st century, right? He writes nothing about Jesus. Nothing. And there's a lot of silence. I'm going to show this. A lot of silence. a lot of historians around the time. There is not a shred of extra-biblical evidence written down to prove that Jesus was historical. Did you know that? There's not a shred. Nothing. Not under this sun. You want to go to another place to find it? Good luck. And if there was, you would think that the Catholic Church would own it and display it at the Vatican before the eyes of all inquiring minds. But they can't, because there ain't none. And I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you how Tacitus, you see churchgoers say, oh, Tacitus mentioned Jesus, therefore he existed. Josephus, Pliny the Younger, and Suetonius. Basically the paper that I'm going to read from, you can use it in your toilet. You can't take it to court to prove that Jesus existed. And I'm going to debunk that because it must be done. And I'll show you that this Augustus, the guy with the crown of thorns, you can see these, if you've got a coin collection, you'll see he's got the crown of thorns. That is the Messiah. He was worshipped as a god. Augustus means God, the August one. I hesitate lest this be the moving of things immovable, and not only warring against the long years of time, as Simonides has it, but warring too against many a nation and race of men who are possessed by a feeling of piety towards these gods. And thus we should not stop short of transplanting such names from the heavens to the earth. Back then, man. Forget about Jordan Maxwell and Michael Zarian and Zeitgeist busting them now. And these guys, Gerald Massey, I've got Alvin Boyd Kuhn. What a beautiful book this is. They're busted big time. He proves that everything in the Bible is absolutely spiritual. It's not historical. This book alone. And this is a good video by Ammon Stop Productions to show how what Pluto was saying. Check out the JC family, the Julian dynasty of Rome, how they set it all up. And then came the Flavians, 30 years of bloodshed in Rome. They built the Colosseum, the Flavian amphitheatre, to give the masses bread and circuses, because you can just do whatever you want if you give them bread and a few circuses. Go to the footy, 100,000. How many were there at Collingwood Geelong last night? There must have been, I think it was 95,000. Not that, I mean, I love football. It's sport, and I'm not attacking sport, but I'm just saying, see how the herd, 100,000 will turn up for that. You get the Dalai Lama or something, and there's 3 people there sitting at his feet. You know, or someone who's got something to say about peace and love. And Bill Clinton comes along, and $1,200 a ticket, you can listen to his bullshit. He's telling you the vomitous lies, and people pay and they sit there, oh, it's Bill Clinton, oh my God. Murderer of many, many, many innocent people. He pulled off Oklahoma. Pulled it off. Check it out on the internet. Find out who these politicians are and what they're really doing behind the scenes. Very nasty Bohemian Grove types who do a lot of things in darkness, like things with children and things to do with sacrificing and all this sort of stuff. You know, they call themselves Christians, so ostensibly people think, oh yeah, we've still got a Christian country or whatever, even though that's the worst kind of setup to have. You look at Jefferson and what he had to say about Christianity, the fiction of Christianity. I'll read some of those quotes in a minute, but I'll get through this. So they transplant the names from heaven to the earth, and eliminating and dissipating the reverence and faith implanted in nearly all mankind at birth. See? By bringing those heroes, Hercules, down to earth, he's saying, eliminating and dissipating the reverence and faith implanted in nearly all mankind at birth. Children, look at children. They know God. They're right there at the source. And they see fairies and they see all these things, and we shut them down real quick. Oh, don't want the neighbours to hear talking about all these things that you're seeing, all these spiritual creatures and things like that. Let's kill that right now. and great doers of the godless throng, degrading things divine to a human level and giving a splendid license to the deceitful utterances of Euphemerus, of Messene, who himself drew up copies of an incredible and non-existent mythology and spread atheism over the whole inhabited earth by obliterating the gods of our belief and converting them all alike into names of generals, admirals and kings who forsooth lived in very ancient times and are recorded in inscriptions written in golden letters at Panneon, which no foreigner and no Greek had ever happened to meet with, save only Euphemerus. He, it seems, made a voyage to Panachians and Triphilians, who never existed nowhere on earth and do not exist. You understand the point, don't you? He was saying that this buffoon was telling people that the mythologies happened on the earth and converting people into what he calls atheism and pulling them away from the reverence of the gods. Because when we know these planets and what they're doing for us and how crucial they are to our existence and shaping our bodies and our destinies and our health, you know, when you understand the science of astrology and you know where the planets are positioned in your birth chart, you'll know if there's any oppositions or squares or trines or sextiles or malefics or benefics, and you'll know what's going on in your body. If there is, for instance, a planet in Pisces and another one directly opposite in Virgo, that's an opposition. That's 180 degrees. So check out your stomach, man. You've got problems with your stomach because that's an opposition. If you have a trine, say from an earth sign to another earth sign, there's a planet here and there's a planet here, that trine, 120 degrees, that will bless your stomach and you'll have a good strong stomach. That's how it works.
So the slippage of possession doesn't affect that at all?
Not at all, no, because it's all based on the solar system. It's not based on the stars, the 30-degree slots of the stars as they slip back every 24,000 years and go right around. You see, the equinox has been in... This equinox here doesn't happen exactly on the 21st of March anymore. It happens way... Well, no, it happens on the 21st of March, but it doesn't happen in Aries anymore. It happens in Pisces over here. And we are now entering the age of Aquarius. Air, Spirit, the Holy Spirit. So the baptizer he's actually pouring down waters of spiritual truths as we leave the age of Pisces ruled by Rome. This is Rome, man. That's Rome. Pisces is all over. We're at the cusp of Aquarius. And Aquarius is taken over. And it's a bigger consciousness. It's the return of the Christ. See, he's already come before, because we are conscious spiritual creatures, and that happened 12,000 years ago when we reached the Golden Age. And then we fell from silver to bronze and then to iron. And the Golden Age was occurring over here. And then we've gone, the equinox has done 12,000 years. It's gone from here to here. And now we are climbing back on a different level of the spiral. We never go round and round like this into the same place. We go up. We're always evolving, going up, 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 up to the heavens.
Yes. Santos, then what you're saying is the Catholic Church, because that's the Catholic Church there, their power will just go, disappear eventually, and there's nothing left.
The mutable water, the spiritual meaning of the age of Pisces, has to do with priestcraft and deception and punishment and karma and getting things right and growing and becoming a Christ-conscious being, which is coming. There's no stopping this. The awakening that's happening that you're seeing around, there's no stopping it.
So
it's natural.
That's a Krishna consciousness as well?
It is. Krishna is Christ. Kronos is Christ. Kronos is the opposite of Jesus. They're the twin brothers, you see. Because the relationship that Saturn has with the Sun, 29 days it takes to go around its orbit, the moon takes 29 and a half years it takes for Saturn to do one orbit. Right? That's a Saturnian year. So you round it off to 30. That's why a man reaches maturity at 30. Jesus gets baptized at 30. He's in the temple at 12 because that's Jupiter. Jupiter takes 12 years to do an orbit. See, the religion is Jupiterian and it's Saturnian, Christianity is. That's why you always see 12 and 30, Saturn and Jupiter. But Saturn, 29 and a half years with its relationship to the sun, the moon has 29 and a half days in its relationship to the earth. And the moon is the womb of the earth. Of course, we remember that the moon is where the souls come down. It's the ovaries of the solar system. It's the womb. And it has that 29 and a half day contact with the earth, and it's very powerful magnetic contact. And Saturn's doing that to the sun. That's why they're brothers, opposed to each other. You see, when you look at astrology, you see Jesus and Mary Magdalene are here in Cancer and Leo. So there's the sun and Mary, Magdalene, Jesus, J-E-S is the sun, right? Opposite both of them, opposite the moon will be in Cancer is always Saturn, and opposing the sun is always Saturn. Saturn has taken his positions sternly against the sun and the moon. He is the great opposer. You see, he always has bad aspects in astrology to the sun. Mercury never has any bad aspects because Mercury can never be more than 28 degrees away from the sun in any birth chart. Just grab anyone's birth chart and you'll see there's the sun and Mercury is always next to it, and Venus, because their orbits are always around the sun. So they're always giving good aspects to the sun. But this guy, he's the great opposer. And then if you look at Jupiter, so Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Mercury. Mercury is always next to the sun. See? Gemini and Virgo. Mercury can never be further away from this. See how it's all science? It's all science. And then Venus, of course, and then Aries, Mars, and then Jupiter. So when you understand this, and when you understand that all of this is pure science. There's the solstice of the 21st of June, Cancer. And there's the solstice of Capricorn. The unicorn is in Cancer. The Capricorn, the corn, is the horn of the cornucopia, of abundance, of souls coming in and going, coming and going, coming and going, up and down Jacob's ladder. The seven-rung ladder of Jacob. As Plato said, we come from the Milky Way, and these guys are quoting Plato, Macrobius, basically, because Scipio's dream comes from Cicero. And Cicero was writing in the Republic, and the Republic was famous by Plato. So everybody that's writing literature is going to call it the Republic because they're all modelling it after Plato's Republic. And Scipio's dream is the fragment that we have that was in that Republic. And so they're all quoting Plato, that we come from the Milky Way and then down the rings of Saturn, Jupiter, Sun, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. And it's going up and down, just like the atomic elements are doing, the 92 so-called elements. They're going from hydrogen all the way down to uranium and up again. It's just a ladder of energy climbing up and down the vibration scale. Because everything is motion. Everything. There's no substance here. None of this is substance. It's all motion. And this explains it. Like Walter Russell says, that's the moment when matter is produced. It begins there. And Aries, that blossom, that's the sperm period, and the blossom represents that. What a beautiful, poetic way of doing that, eh? Isn't it beautiful? The sun splits the day there, ting, and then, and it goes up to 90 degrees, removal of that light force. And the feminine power is over here. See, these are masculine, the equinoxes. The solstices are feminine. Radiation, gravity. That's how he explains it. Simple. Everything in the universe is just electromagnetic spirals. Everything. Atoms do it, suns do it, everything is doing it. Every atom in your body is doing it. It's just spiraling around and going electric, magnetic. Well, it's the other way around, actually. Electric goes like this in the cone, it gravitates and it contracts. Electricity contracts and then magnetism radiates. And that's it. You don't need any other explanations. There's nothing else to explain. That's how it works. And this explains it. This sine wave explains it. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo. Now, I'm not going to go right into this because I've covered it at length. Please check out Mr. Astrotheology website and you'll have a ball with the information. You'll work all this stuff out. And then the Red Sea. So you've got Libra, Scorpio, Sag, Cap, Aquarius and Pisces. These are the red months, the dreaded red winter months. Now, when you bring this around, you can bring it around in itself like that, right? Here is Sagittarius and here is Scorpio. See, as the sun climbs up and conquers, comes into Jerusalem, that's Jerusalem. And it must be betrayed, as Jesus is betrayed. All of a sudden in the Gospels, you know, there's all this good stuff happening. He collects all his 12 disciples. They go around preaching the kingdom of the heavens and everything's great. And then all of a sudden Jesus starts saying, look out for the leaven of the Pharisees. Look out, they're going to betray me. I tell you, I will be betrayed. And he says to Peter, before the cock crows 3 times, you will betray me. There's all this betrayal all of a sudden. That's the betrayal. Down, waning sun dies. And Scorpio is Judas Iscariot. The backbiter. Scorpions bite with their back, and they leave, when they bite, they leave a kiss mark that resembles the kiss of a human being, you see, the lips. So Judas, in the Garden of Gethsemane, Sagittarius, yeah, the kiss of death, betrays the sun, because the sun is being betrayed here at sunset or winter, and it goes down to die. And guess who's there? Who are the characters in all right, so it's easy. If you've seen Mel Gibson's The Passion of Christ, you'll know that who was in the Garden of Gethsemane? The devil, remember that? Whispering in his ear. There was Peter, and there was Judas Iscariot. They're the 3 main players. Well, there's Judas Iscariot. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and the devil is, wouldn't Draco be one of the extra zodiacal signs of the sign of Sagittarius? Yeah, that's where the dragon is. The devil is there. And the devil hands over the sun to Saturn, Aquarius and Capricorn. Saturn takes over. In this quadrant there's no fire. See, there's fire here in Aries, cardinal fire, fire fixed over here. And Sagittarius is the last of the fire. This man, Mr. Cold, kills the sun at winter. That's winter. It's all science. All of it.